Have you wanted to know my take on deities? That's coming up right after this. Hi everybody, I'm Mel from Mel's Divination. I like to post about witchcraft or spiritual stuff every Wednesday, so follow me, like, subscribe, comment if you are interested. Today, we're going to talk very briefly about deities and what they do. Very briefly. We're not going to get super in-depth, so if you're looking for some intro information around deities, this is your video. The reason why we're not going to get super in-depth is deity work is not really something I would recommend for beginners, and it's something I've avoided to talk about for many reasons. Deity work versus deity worship and education are very different things. So we're going to define that in a little bit. But first, let's talk about what is a deity? What is that? What is that word, deity? Let's start there because some of you may not even know what that is. So deities is basically the divine, a divine being of a god or a goddess, okay? So for instance, there were many gods and goddesses. All of you probably learned back a long time ago about Greek god and goddesses, about Egyptian god and goddesses like Horus and Isis and maybe Apollo, things like that, okay? So those are deities. Hecate, you've probably heard about. Lilith, you've probably heard about. These are supernatural, super strong beings that are not human, that are spiritual beings who have major powers, and they're ones that need to be respected. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? One of the reasons why I've avoided doing videos about deities is because there's a wealth of knowledge and information that needs to be known before working with one, and caution is really important here. And there's things that I've noticed with spiritual teachers, influencers, I'm not really quite sure what the proper term is, where they just kind of throw caution to the wind. So there's two trains of thoughts about deities that I've noticed in the community, in the spiritual community, in the witchcraft community. One is you work with a deity and you honor them and you're very careful with them and you work with just one or two deities that have presented themselves to you. Another, which I do not agree with, is you call upon whatever deity you feel you need as you are doing work. So you feel like you need Kali right now, you call upon Kali. You feel like you need Hecate right now, you call upon Hecate. Even if you're not developing a relationship with them, you just call upon them to help you with your working. To me, that's a big no-no. And I may upset some people because some people are totally fine with that. Sorry, got interrupted. To recap, there are two trains of thoughts. One is you have a working relationship with specific deities and it's just one or two or a handful. And then another train of thought is you call upon all sorts of deities as you need them when you're doing work, depending on the correspondences, kind of like the way you use candles with corresponding colors or oils with corresponding needs. So I'm against that one. My spirits, my guides, my ancestors have always encouraged me to respect deities and not just call upon them willy-nilly. That's always been my guidance, my personal guidance. You need to work with what works for you, but I'm teaching you what I have been taught, okay? And if you disagree, that is completely your right. but this is what I've been guided to do, okay? So why? Should you not just call on them however you see fit, whenever you feel like it? Because these are beings that are people, well, not human beings, but that are souls, that are things, that are real. And think of it as a person, right? And it's not a person, but think of them as a person. Think of it as a personality. Would you, as a person, help some stranger out who just was walking down the street calling on you all the time, asking for help because you're there, but they don't ever do anything for you, to thank you, to pay you back, to do anything in favor for you? That's kind of what it's like when you just pick up a deity whenever you feel like it and you put them back down. That's how it works. That's how I've always been guided of how it feels and looks to them. And it's a good way to make them angry. It's a good way to be disrespectful. If you have not built a relationship with them, it's a great way to upset one of them. And you don't want to piss off a god or goddess. You just don't. So that's how I've been guided. The best way to work with them, the best way to build a relationship with them is slow and steady. Okay? So there's a difference between also working and worshiping. So worshiping is just praying to them and not asking anything from them. It's just acknowledging them, thanking them for existing, learning some information about them, that kind of thing. Where working with them is giving offerings, asking them to do things for you, really having a solid relationship where you're constantly in communication with them. It's like a channeling thing where you're constantly in communication with this being. So that's why I really recommend waiting until you're more advanced in your practice, where you're grounded, where you're protected, where you can tell the difference between communicating with them or your ego or maybe your ancestors or whatever, so that you know what's going on, so that you can discern what's happening. Now, people ask about what deities to work with, or how do I know who to work with? And it's very individualized. I have, I believe, 4 off of the top of my head. And I'm not going to share who they are, but they all came to me at different times in my life. And what I mean by come to me, like I didn't see a vision of them standing right in front of me. What I mean is there were signs. Like, for instance, the one that I've been working with the longest, I was getting signs when I was like in 4th grade, 5th grade. And constantly like seeing this, and I haven't been working with it since 5th grade, but seeing it and really being pulled to that energy. And I didn't realize until I was older, oh, that's what was going on when I was a kid. That's why I kept being pulled to that. That's why I was really wanting to learn more about that. And it kept showing up, symbols and signs and signals and things. You could see it in a movie, you could see it, sorry, there's a lot of noise in my neighborhood today. You could see it in a movie, you could see it in a show, you could see it on TV, you could see it in a book, you could see it in a conversation, you could see it in maybe a reading you're doing, whatever. It comes through, it shows up. So I hope that makes some sense. And then even like names that come through regularly. You see this name over and over and over and over. And obviously some of them you're not going to see regularly. Like you're probably not going to be out walking around and see the word Hecate regularly. Maybe you will. Out in public, I don't know. Maybe you will. But probably not. So if you are, that's a sign that Hecate is probably trying to reach out to you. So where do you start? Start researching them. Don't start asking for anything. Start researching them. Start asking questions. Start trying to journal around when do you notice signals from them. Start sitting in meditation with them. Start learning about them. Get books, read about it, find out what they like for offerings, things like that. Start a rapport with them. Do not ask for anything from them. And then, and only then, you can start working with them. But I'm not even going to talk about the work, because that's the part that I don't want to get into, because it can become problematic. So this, when you work with deities, it's a regular daily practice. When you build a relationship, it's just like building a relationship with a person. You want to build a relationship. You want to work on that. You want to honor them. So do you have to have a deity? Absolutely not. No. And certain forms, and I'm going to be doing a video about pagan, Wicca, witchcraft. Certain forms of witchcraft, no, you don't need to. Wicca talks a lot about deities, and paganism talks a lot about deities. But you also don't have to for those either. I'm not super clear on the Wiccan. I'm still doing research there, so I'm not sure if you have to have a deity. I don't think so. I could be wrong, so please comment down below if you're a practicing Wiccan and I'm wrong, because I'm not a Wiccan and I haven't done all of my research yet there. But as far as paganism, I do know that you can be a pagan that is not devoted to a deity. I do know that. So there's different things. So I hope this helped clear it up for you guys a little bit. Wait for things to come to you. Do not force it. If there's one that you're kind of connecting with and that you're feeling a vibe for, take a class on it. Read a book. Read multiple books. Try to meditate. But don't force things and don't jump into it, because this is literally a relationship. So you don't want to be that person that is forcing a relationship with a entity that doesn't really respect you. So be mindful. Be mindful. I waited a very long time before I started working with anybody as a deity, and right now I'm only working with one. I have four deities. I'm still researching and building rapport with 3 of them. The only one I'm currently working with is the one that I've been guided to work with since I was very young. The other 3 are fairly new to me, and I'm still building a relationship, reading, researching, wanting to get to know more about them, because I'm super cautious. So that's how I recommend you go about it. To each their own. But I've seen people, for instance, and Kali is not one of my deities. However, I have personally witnessed somebody calling on Kali, asking for her to curse people when this person didn't have a very tight relationship with Kali. It was just like, she's somebody I can call in once in a while. And they weren't doing their work, and they called in Kali, and within a year, they lost their home, they were sued, they literally, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened to them. Their business blew up, like, they had to move. It was bad, because they were calling on this goddess of destruction to be destructive to people and its destruction work. And Kali is a goddess of destruction if it is called for. And that's a whole nother thing, but the work wasn't called for. The person was just mad and ego because of what happened. But that's a whole nother thing. But it blew up in their face. They were not protected, and Kali kicked them out. So you definitely want to be cautious about just being like, oh, let me look in this book and see. Oh, let's see, Saint Expedite. Oh, Saint Expedite is great. Saint Expedite can help me. Now, angels and saints, those I'm a little bit unclear if I would consider them specifically a deity, because they are not considered gods and goddesses. But I would have a similar caution with them, because They are there to help you as well if you call upon them. And I have always worked, and this one I will disclose, I've always had a relationship and I've always worked hand in hand with Archangel Michael, but I leave Archangel Michael offerings and I communicate with Archangel Michael. I have never just been like, hey, come here, come protect me, come help me out. Do me a favor. I've never done that. I've always honored Archangel Michael. I don't know if I would necessarily put that under a deity category because Archangel Michael is not considered a god. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that angels and saints are deities? I respect them just as much as I do gods and goddesses because they do have a lot of power. So let me know what you think. Comment down below. If you'd like to share your deities, go right ahead, or some experiences you've had, some of your thoughts. And I hope this helped you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye.